Cranks mushroom stroganoff.
Hi, I'm Shoestring Jane. Welcome back to my channel where I talk about all things thrifty, frugal and money saving. Today I'm going to do a thrifty dinner, and this is something from my very old, let me get the book, my very old, I mean you can see just how well used this book is. I think I bought this in the 1970s, my very old Cranks recipe book, and I did used to love going up to the Cranks restaurant. They had a couple. They had one at Covent Garden, which I did go into once, I think. But the one I used to go to most often was near Liverpool Street. And because I used to go up, I used to live in Bruntwood, and it was easy to get up there when I was a teenager. And I loved it. I even went for a job with the Cranks restaurant once when I was 16, and I didn't get it. And I know why I didn't get it. It's because I was so shy that I could barely string a sentence together in my interview. But it was a shame. I did want to work there. I did, however, a couple of years later, manage to get a job at a vegetarian restaurant called Food for Health, which was in Blackfriars. Doesn't exist anymore. I worked there for about 8 months. I was saving up some money to go travelling, and so I stopped working there after that. But I did love it. It was run by Mr. and Mrs. Highton, and they were lovely. They were the nicest, kindest people. I guess they were kind of original vegetarian hippies from the 60s. But they had this business. So me and Justin when we went to London once, we went to try and find it, and we did find it, but it wasn't a restaurant anymore. I think it was an office. So I guess something like that in Blackfriars would cost a fortune now, but it was groundbreaking. So was Cranks. I mean, there were so few vegetarians about. You would go to a restaurant, and at one point the best you could hope for was just the vegetables of whatever the meat dish was, and then they would do you an omelette, or they might do you a quiche, but you was very much considered weird if you were a vegetarian in those days. So I stopped being a vegetarian though, and I'm currently just exploring getting back into it. I haven't really eaten any meat for about 3 weeks now. It's not a hardship for me because I don't really like meat. The reason I did it was because it was kind of convenient. I was lazy, and the older I've got, the more I've got, it's just kind of really, I'm not sentimental. I don't want to say I'm sentimental about animals, although I am. I love them. But I've kind of started thinking a lot about the farming cruelty aspect of eating meat again. And it just bugs me so much. I've been feeling guilty about it for a few years. And then because I felt like I had to go vegan, and because really I know the dairy industry is horrible as well. Excuse my terrible filming. But I thought I had to go vegan, and I kept trying to go vegan, and because I've got IBS, it just didn't work for me. And so I was getting all my protein just from nothing, really. I just had vegetables, and I couldn't have any legumes or anything like that. So I thought, no, okay, let's just ease myself gently back into it. I'm not calling myself a vegetarian. I'm mostly eating vegetarian food. I'm not worrying about being a vegan. If I can at some point incorporate fewer dairy products into my diet, then I will do. But let me show you anyway what's in this recipe. It's so easy, it's really cheap, and it's very straightforward. It doesn't have many ingredients. Let me show you what I'm going to put in it. So all we need is mushrooms. There's 12 ounces of mushrooms. Let me get that recipe so that I can actually get the quantities straight now. This is the recipe. So I've got 1 large onion, 4 celery sticks. Here we have 4 celery sticks. I've got a red onion because that's what I have. Can't eat too many onions, but I'll be all right. 12 ounces of mushrooms, or 350 grams in new money. I still think in pounds and ounces. Butter or margarine. I've got my butter dish over there. And, well, they say 100% wholemeal flour because Cranks made everything wholemeal. That was kind of really crucial. I'm just going to use some flour. 1 tablespoon. Just need some water, yeast extract. They haven't specified that it has to be Marmite, which is good because I've got the ends of a jar of Marmite, but then I got the cheaper Tesco yeast extract the other day. It's exactly the same. Thyme, just got some dried thyme. I don't have, there's another thing here, which is ground bay leaf, a pinch. I don't have that, so I'm not worrying about that. And I do have the sour cream. Sour cream, we're looking at 1/4 pint or 142 mils of sour cream, so about half of this. and then I need to find another way to use that. The only thing I'm adding that they don't have in their recipe is a big fat clove of garlic, because I think garlic and mushrooms go together really well. So I'm adding that myself. And then you're supposed to sprinkle fresh parsley on it. I do have some parsley in my garden, however, it has largely gone to seed. I didn't put any on last time. It really didn't make any difference. So I'm not too worried about that. And then just a bit of salt and pepper to taste, obviously. So dead easy, hardly any ingredients. Kind of 3 main ingredients, 3 vegetable ingredients, plus I've added garlic. So as you can see, this is going to be pretty cheap. And I served it with brown rice last time. You could serve it with any rice, or you could even have it with pasta, I guess. But it went really well with brown rice, and I like it, although it takes a bit longer to cook. It's just so kind of filling. It feels a lot more filling than white rice. So I'm going to use that again. I'm making this now before I go to Mum's, because it's 8:30 at the moment and I don't know how long I'll be there for. So I want to make sure I've got time for something decent to eat tonight. So I'm making it now. It will be ready to go when I get back later and when Justin arrives, and we can just have that. I so wish they would reprint this book. It's so full of good stuff. I mean, as well as the mushroom stroganoff, we've got a vegetarian goulash there that looks nice and easy. And I'd forgotten about this, and I've never actually made it, but I remember looking at it before. It's a savoury mix. So if you want to replace sausage meat, minced meat, to put in a pie or a pasty, then this is a suggestion. So it's yellow split peas, carrot, onion, coarse oatmeal, garlic, tomato, lots of like herbs and breadcrumbs. And I think actually that's a really good idea, isn't it? And there's another one I want to do. I said this before, but then I forgot about it straight away. Some really good things in here. Winter hot pot. Let's find what I want. Savoury mix. Gosh, I can't eat soya. There's a lot of soya. Ah, yes, lentil and cheese wedges. I wonder if I could manage a bit of that. I used to make a lot of lentil and cheese things in the days I could eat a lot of lentils. I reckon if I had a small amount of that, that might be quite good. So I might try have a go at that. What else we got? Simple. I must have done this because I've turned it over. Savoury potato dish. It literally is just potatoes with an egg in it. So I guess that would be a side dish, really. I wouldn't call that a main course. Chickpea croquettes. There's so many good things in here. If you find it, there's this one and the Entertaining with Cranks recipe book. And they're both just brilliant, but they are hard to pick up now. They were by Dave Cantor and Kay Cantor. Dave Cantor was the person that interviewed me when I didn't get my job. But yes, anyway, it's a really good book. Onwards and upwards. So please don't criticise my terrible knife skills. I ain't no chef. And this knife could probably do with sharpening, to be honest. Oh my God, these are going to make me cry. They're really strong, these onions. So the other thing about veggie food, of course, from the point of view of a channel about frugality, is that it's a lot cheaper. And I've mentioned this in a previous video. I mean, health-wise, if you eat properly, I mean, you can eat junk as a vegetarian or a vegan or a carnivore, you know, omnivore. Oh God, it really is getting I remember when I chopped this the other day, it made me cry. You can eat junk, whatever, but I think the thing about vegetarian, vegan food is it just makes you eat more veg, of course, unless you just eat junk, in which case you can still avoid the veg, but what's the point of that? And years ago, oh gosh, this really got me. Oh, I'll come back to you in a minute. It's better. I've moved the onions away because they were just making me cry. I've got this little bit of bamboo kitchen roll that I use to wipe my mushrooms. Yeah, what I was going to say was, you know, there's loads of studies being done about how much healthier vegetarians tend to be. And I really think that the key to that is, well, I said this, the studies tend to be older, and it's really just the eating of the veg, you know, and getting more than your 5 a day and getting at least your 5 a day and on a regular basis, you know, all the time, because you have to base your meals around vegetables. But years and years ago, when I was just about probably 18 or 19, I took part in a study. I think I've mentioned this on a previous video, as I say, but God knows which one. I think there was one about plant-based eating when I tried to be a vegan. Still snivelling from the onion. I took part in an Oxford University study on vegetarians. It was a long-term study, And I didn't do the whole thing because I moved house. I moved up to Norwich and I kind of lost track of it. I think I might have forgotten to tell them that I'd moved because, you know, that's not the, you know, telling your bank and your driving licence and everybody else, you do forget to tell a study that you're taking part in. But it was, I think it was supposed to be a 10-year study, and it was looking at, it actually did blood tests. So it asked you questionnaires and you filled in questionnaires, plus they took regular bloods. So that really showed what was happening in your body. And I actually used to get sent a little pot. I'd go into my doctor. I can imagine trying to do that now. You would to get a doctor's appointment, would you? And the doctor would do the blood test and then I'd post it off to them. And I did that for quite a long time. And I think a lot of people did take part in it, but I didn't get to the end. I did look up the study and it was published. And it did show that vegetarians have less cancers, less heart disease. I don't know what else, but those are the main things. And that was kind of before veganism really took off. I guess they included vegans as well, but at the time it was mainly vegetarians. So I thought it was interesting, and I've kind of gone back to this. The older I get, obviously the more healthy I want to be. So, you know, eating more fruit and veg is a good thing, plus making Justin eat more fruit and veg is a good thing, because Justin would just live on white bread and junk food if he was left to his own devices, I think. So making him eat more veg. He'll go, when he gets this, he'll go, have I got any meat though to go with it? He is literally, he just thinks a meal is not a meal without the meat. So what I'm going to do, now that I've just thought about it, is get him a pork chop out and he can have that with his. And I'm hoping that I can win him over by making lots of really nice, delicious veggie food so that he is happier to eat it more often. He does like a nut roast. And I do have, I think I've got a video with the nut roast. I certainly got it on my blog. I'll try and link it below, of the best nut roast that I've ever done, which is cashew nut and mushroom roast from the Sarah Brown Vegetarian Kitchen Cookbook. Another book I wish they would reprint. It's just brilliant. So I don't know whatever happened to Sarah Brown. Nobody knows. She didn't marry Gordon Brown, as some people have suggested. Not as far as I'm aware. Anyway, my board is not big enough for all these mushrooms. God, I know I've got rubbish knife skills. Don't criticise my knife skills. So, oh, you've got to do the celery as well. Oh gosh, I've just thrown the garlic on the floor. This is good. 10-second rule. It's still in its skin. Still in its skin. It'll be fine. So anyway, let's get the celery done. I'll move this out of the way because I need to chop the celery. This celery really needs using up. I've added it to my shopping list because I tend to use celery instead of onions a lot of the time, but this one requires both, so I found it was really nice with them both. It's difficult avoiding onions altogether, and they do aggravate me if I eat too much. But you know, onions make everything taste really good, don't they? And I really enjoy the crunch of a bit of celery. Some people don't like celery. I guess if you didn't like celery, you could just add another onion instead of these 4 sticks of celery. Another large onion would do it, wouldn't it? I don't think it would taste as good. I really liked the celery. I would say make sure you chop it reasonably small though, because it doesn't get much cooking time. So if you don't like it that crunchy, then you will probably, you know, you want it as small as possible. Right, I need to get these in the pan, crush my garlic, and then we'll go from there. In go the mushrooms. There are a lot of mushrooms here, but I would say the recipe says that this serves 4 people. I mean, I don't know if it's because I'm very greedy, but I would say 3 people. I mean, you could make it maybe even 2 people if you like a really big dinner, but you could make it more filling with some nice crusty baguette, couldn't you? But I would say 3 people, not 4. 3 healthy appetites anyway. I need to add a little bit more butter now, because the flour will be going in soon, just to kind of thicken it up a bit. Okay, let's leave that for a bit. So you want to make sure your mushrooms are cooked all the way through, because it doesn't get much cooking after this. Let's add the flour, so about a tablespoon of flour. Straight in the washing up. I'm trying to tidy up as I go along today, because I'll be out all day. So you want to make sure that's cooked through for a few minutes. It doesn't make it really thick, but you don't want it to be kind of too runny because the mushrooms do give off a lot of juice. See how easy this recipe is? It's super, super easy. And that's what I like. Cheap and easy recipes. There we go. Put that through a little bit. Let's add the water. So it's not even stock, it's just water. Turn the heat up a little bit on that. And then I want about a teaspoon of yeast extract. And I think this really adds to it. I think, don't leave this out, I think it really adds to it. And the recipe says, half a teaspoon. I say a scant teaspoon of dried thyme, otherwise it hardly seems worth the effort, does it? Herbs and Marmite all over myself. Yeah. So it's not very runny at the moment, but remember we've got the sour cream to go in. I'll cook this through for a bit. It smells lovely actually, it smells really lovely, but I love mushrooms, so obviously you're not going to do this recipe if you don't enjoy mushrooms. So just give that a couple more minutes and then we're going to add the sour cream. Okay, so I'm just turning the heat off. Let's add a bit of salt and pepper. Hasn't had any salt, remember, because there's no stock in this. So a decent amount. Just have a taste of one of the very hot mushrooms. Oh, it is really hot. Needs a bit more salt. Okay, and then let's add about half of this. I'm not measuring it, I'm just doing it by eye. We need to use the other half of that up quite quickly. I think there's something to do with that, perhaps we'll add a little bit more on top. You see what I mean? This is not a meal for four. I know I'm going to do it with rice, but I really think this is pretty much a meal for two, or maybe two and a small one. I'm just going to get a spoon and have another little taste. There won't be anything left if I keep tasting it. That is nice. Needs a little bit more pepper, I think. I'll tell you what I would have added if I'd thought of it when I was cooking it. My daughter gave me some ground sumac to try. I've never tried it. She says it's delicious in things, and like where you might use paprika, and I would potentially use paprika in something like this. I think it would go quite well. But there you go. So that is done. I'm just going to leave that to cool, and then I'll stick it in the fridge, and we'll come back and eat that for our dinner later with, as I said before, a bit of brown rice. But I think you could go pasta, couldn't you? You could have pasta, or you could have couscous, or quinoa, or just white rice.
And it's really nice with grated cheese on top.
So that's it for today. Mushroom stroganoff. Hope you try it and hope you enjoy it. If you enjoyed this video, please do give me the thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe. Every time I look, I see there are a lot more people watching than there are subscribing, and it really helps me out, and I want to get to that magic 10,000. So if you can help me out with that, that would be great. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.